I'm going to call this segment this, but we're going to start with some general topics that Jeff thinks are uh, all the rage in North Carolina high school hoops. And we're actually going to call it the same name as his article. We'll call it Bendel's Best. How about
Oh,
that?
I would also like to mention these were just storylines that I'm interested in. Not maybe not everybody, but these are what I'm looking at.
I
And this
think
might
that
not be comedic.
no, you speak for the masses,
I
and the
don't.
masses are ready to listen to these topics. So let's get to it.
Great. All right. Well, first, I think one of the more interesting things is obviously Christ School now is a Nike Scholastic team, and kind of what that entails, who they'll be playing, how that'll look, and how the guys that they have will stack up. Obviously, they're loaded again. So, how's that going to look? How are some of the best players at a private school that would have obviously been one of the more dominant programs again this year
Right.
in NCISAA? How will they compete at the highest level with these other teams?
Yeah, I think that the move is interesting. I think the fact that they can't compete for a state championship is interesting. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think that when you're pursuing something that they're pursuing, whether it be with the travel, with the expenses, with all the different things that go into it, I think it's a very unique situation. And so for Coach Coley, like as someone who I've spoken to multiple times and have had great conversations with and taken advice from. He's the right man for the job, and he has been absolutely phenomenal there. And everywhere that he's been, he's won. So for him to be in a situation where he's able to take those guys to that level, I think is going to be great for them. I do think that in year one, it'll be a little bit of a learning curve. I think that there are specific positions that honestly, they've got to show themselves. It's not to say that they can't do it, but the reality is you're going into a situation with established Nike programs and established national powerhouses that are going to have some size and some real advantages over you. So I'm very interested to see how that goes.
Plus, as far as state championships go, I mean, I don't think Coley really needs to worry about. He's got plenty of them.
Right. I think that like that's what I mean to say is like he's done what he needs to do at that level.
Right.
I think that again, this is a logical next step. And I like the fact that it's like he doesn't have to jump to do it. So honestly, shout out to Christ School and the administration of the school, to the private school, the NCISAA for working that out. Like that's a great opportunity, and I think it's going to bring great publicity to the state.
Sure. And then I think moving outside of the or staying outside of the public private sector, I question who are going to be the top independent teams. Obviously,
Mhm.
Moravian's loaded; they're going to be one of the top teams in the state. But I think it's interesting. It felt like a few years ago we were trending more towards seeing a growth of independent programs, and now it feels like there's almost been a dearth, and
Sure.
you see less and less in that regard. I haven't heard a whole lot as far as what Combine's building, but a lot of this stuff moves so quickly that you really don't know. Liberty Heights obviously isn't a thing anymore, but
Right.
that they were great in their time. Word of God still, they're going to get pieces, but it's obviously who's going to be the guys that they're going to have is really the
Sure.
question I think that I'm having. Uh, so is it just going to be Moravian is going to be the top dog again, or what are we going to see?
I think it would be wrong of me not to throw a plug in for CPI. Um,
Sure,
I think that DJ as the coach and the roster that he's built is kind of this ultimate wild card. I think he's done a great job of leveraging his connections in AAU and in the Charlotte area to building a great roster. So I think that everyone should be really excited to see them. I think that it's almost impossible to bet against Antonio Lowe at this point.
sure. I completely
Like,
forgot that they're
like
independent.
like everyone can say what they want about like, well, who's coming in for combine and who's coming. Like, guys, at the end of the day, Antonio Lowe is going to have a mob, and at the end of the day, they are going to play together and they are going to be tough as nails. And that's just the MO of who he's been ever since I've coached against him. So, and for the many years that he coached prior to us coaching against each other. So I am very excited to see the roster that he puts together there. That they're always going to be one of those teams where when you see them on the schedule, you know what's coming. You know
Yeah,
it's going to be, you know what's coming.
that was a big oversight on my end. I always do that because I forget that they're an actual private school, but they're just not an NCISA affiliate. But yes, my bad, Antonio Lowe. Their team's already loaded. I don't know how many more pieces they need to add. I think their most recent addition was Jaleel Smith, another,
Hmm.
another one of the top 2028 guards. So they're going to be really good. Uh,
100%.
Along with that Jaleel Smith comment, a lot of these transfers we're seeing, both inside the state and outside the state, how is that going to affect the landscape, both public, private, and independent, or rather, and independent? But um, it's just so many kids are moving around now. I mean, you're not a stranger to it. You have a lot
Mhm.
of your roster is completely different for the most part, and it's one of those things where it's interesting to see how quickly cohesive units are built and how quickly these guys get on the same page and what it all looks like.
The amount of time those guys spend together, I think, is really important. That's something that we've tried to prioritize very significantly. I think that one of the things that I've realized is that in this world and in this landscape that we're in basketball, Deion Sanders said this really well a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year when someone asked him about his emphasis on the transfer portal. And he just said, like, guys, people have been doing this for decades. Like, what is free agency? What is, any number of these other things? What is, a kid transferring in high school from a public to private or vice versa? What is, the thing in like the bottom line is that this is a beast that has existed. So I'm interested, like you, to see which teams adjust quickly. And I think that it's really going to come back to a team's ability to become cohesive faster that would ultimately lead to their success. There's something to be said about teams who stay together even what is now 2 years.
Right.
Like, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like, when you think about, and I think about the Henderson collegiate teams, that was a core group together from middle school through high school. And you sprinkle in a transfer or two every now and then because they want a different option or a different opportunity. But by and large, that was a really tight-knit group that just started when we were in seventh grade together.
Mhm.
And now I can't even fathom that happening.
Right.
Like it's the strangest thing. Like I can't even begin to think about what that would even look like now. And if there are communities out there who are doing that and who are killing it, like I'd love to learn from their coach because I think that that's tremendous. But it's going to be interesting this year for sure. New classifications, which I know we'll talk about in a second, but transfers are going to be kind of the thing that stirs the pot.
Yeah. I mean, transfers have been happening for decades, maybe, but it's definitely more common now than I think ever before.
100%,
I think
100%.
that's more the emphasis. But next, I feel like public school, especially, but this, I guess, pertains to public, private, all around. It just feels like things are a lot more wide open this year. Kind of going off that last point, a lot of the top kids have transferred out of the state. A lot of the top kids, you could argue, in the state, regardless of class, are in the class of 2028. So, and they're only sophomores who have yet to play a sophomore game.
Right.
So, a lot of them that rather. So, how is that going to look as far as the landscape? I feel like I couldn't tell you who's going to be the favorite for 3, 4, 2A. I mean, for public school at least, I feel like at least in Greensboro, there's a ton of good teams. It's going to be really competitive across the board. Um, you had Smith, who won it all last year, and they lost key pieces. So they're going to still contend, but how's it going to look? Southern Durham, the team that they played, uh, they obviously graduated Jackson Keith, but they're still good. So what's everything going to look like?
I'm gonna tell you this, they may be better.
Yeah,
Like that sounds absolutely insane, but when you start talking about AJ taking that step,
sure,
and more importantly, it's not just a matter of like, well, it's the AJ and Jackson show. Now, like that lineup is well rounded.
sure.
Like they have really good players on that team. They're gonna cause a lot of problems.
I think you'd agree though, taking Jackson Keith off any team, you know, is
Oh, I mean,
going to be a
he's a
loss.
top one, what
And
was it, top
this is
75 player in the country, something like that, top 50.
one team out of hundreds we can name. I feel like that's what I'm saying. It's just so wide open. You could talk about
Sure.
dozens of teams and say this team could possibly contend for a title this year.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I'm also interested to think about like I don't know what classification anyone's in public. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
public.
not going to know. Like the only ones I'm going to know are the biggest public schools. Like I know Myers Park is 8, I think. I think that like is Andrews like 5, 6, something like that. Like we've mentioned Irv and we'll shout him out for the great work he's doing. I don't know what classification they're in. I know Wilson Prep is 1. I know Henderson Collegiate is 2. I know Warren County is 2.
But we don't need to go through a whole list
Yeah,
of them.
but I'm just saying, like, other than like the ones that are directly connected to like my personal experience or the people who I have that are friends in the space, like I couldn't tell you. So I mean, I'm interested to see what that looks like. But I know that you also had some takes on private that I'm interested to get into as well.
Sure. I mean, I think you could look at 4A now that, given everything that First Sight's done, it's hard to see, as great of a classification as that is, it's hard to see many teams really dethroning them right now. They have to be considered the front runner, in my opinion. I
Who
mean, they
was
go
the kid they got that was recent that was of note from CP3 EYCL?
Jayon Connor. Yep, got him
He can play.
reclassified. Prince
Man, he can
Nwamoto.
play.
They have a legit rim protecting big. They got Max Van Wiederherzen. I mean, they just got a ton of guys. I mean,
Man,
Tyler Graham.
that's
Those are just incoming guys. They have Q Williams. They have J.R. Adams. They have A.D. Dalton. They have Adam Hirobi. I mean, they're a loaded team. There's one name I'm definitely forgetting, but
Gomez. You're forgetting Gomez.
yeah, Chris Gomez. Sorry, shout out to
Mhm.
Chris Gomez. But yeah, so they're a great team. I think that they're obviously one of the strongest teams out right now. But then you look at 3A, loaded, loaded classification. You have GDS is as deep as they've ever been. I think uh, Concord, yearly contender, always in the mix for 30 wins, which rarefied territory. Uh, and then you mentioned another.
My thing that the only thing I would disagree with what you're saying is those classifications are top heavy. Like they're super top heavy. They're I don't think that I would describe them as loaded classifications this year.
I mean, these teams are loaded. I'm saying these teams are.
Yes.
I don't. I mean, the top is heavy for sure in 3A, but I think you agree that there's 4 teams that are legitimate dogs in this situation. We haven't even gotten down to 2A, where you know
Two
you
A
got,
is the gauntlet in private school
of
basketball. I'm
course,
like
Caldwell, Davidson Days in this mix. What are they, 3A now?
Davidson Days 3, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. There's, even if it's a short list, that list is so solid that I feel like you could have any one of those guys come out.
I'm not going to name any of the 2A teams because what always happens is there'll be a clip and it'll be like, well, they're hating on us. They're this, they're
You
that.
are.
I'm not going to say that. Like the reality is, and this goes to any opposing coach or opposing player. If it's me and I'm your opponent, you're not being slept on. I'm sorry. Like I don't operate that way. So this illusion of like we need bulletin board material and there is no disrespect. Like I would say that that's why I just said that about 2A. If you went through it legitimately, you could find 12 teams that will win a playoff game. You will find that when you get into that means before the Elite Eight, someone is going to be sad because they're sitting at home. And so those are difficult types of things to go through, but the depth of the 2A division is really, really impressive. 1A, I mean, it kind of just is what it is. Like I will tell you that a sleeper team in 1A this year is Crossroads. Shout out to Scotty Richardson, one of my longtime friends in this business. They went to the state championship game last year. I think that they're going to have a team that is poised to do that again this year, and I'm very excited to follow their success. So definite shout out to Scotty and the guys at Crossroads. Fun fact, Scotty, I am undefeated against you, and I know that that's going to kill you until we play again. So just wanted to throw that in there from my Henderson collegiate days.
Good. Shout out to Scotty and shout out to Victory Christian. I think they also deserve a shout out, having won several
Sure.
times in the last few years. And lastly, on these topics, I have 2028's making the leap. I think we've, especially over the summer, seen a lot of these guys started to really separate themselves from the rest of the pack. Not to mention any specific names yet, but this class is really, really strong, especially at the top. I think it goes 10, 15, 20 deep with really high level players. Whatever that means, we'll see in due time. But
Well, what it
ultimately,
means is that teams from other states will just come and take them.
well, hopefully we can keep North Carolina
Like,
basketball strong
I
enough
mean,
that we can keep them
it's
here.
that's an easy understanding at this
Yeah.
rate. Look,
But yeah,
a la class of 27. I mean, it's like that's pretty
and
good.
26.
And 26. I mean, that seems to be the MO is that I don't know how we couldn't be the hoop state if that continues to happen, but what do I know? I'm just a lowly basketball coach in Alamance County. This is a good segue actually to our top fives for today. So